This is the 19th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, X Zone Lures, Shoreline Boat and RV Repair, Spro, Gamakatsu, Big Bite Baits, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. And as promised, yes, we are live on location from Shoreline Boat and RV in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with one of my good friends, Brock Enmeier. And I knew Brock before you even started working for Shoreline. Are we already working for Shoreline?
No, I was in college, I think, when we first met. I may have just started working here, but we fished some Bass Nation stuff.
Yeah, 2016 or 2016 and 17, before you moved to the boater side, 2 years in a row, he was the co-angler, and then I was the boater of the Bass Nation Championship, and then Brock started fishing from the front of the boat and now catches them regularly. We have a really cool show today. I've been talking about it all week on BTL. I kind of want to say like a maintenance show. Shoreline does a lot with campers, with RVs, with repairs, but they also do a lot with vessels, with bass boats, restorations, insurance stuff. You run into a dock, all sorts of stuff. So I have had some issues in the past where Brock is like, dude, why are you running that? Like, that's a major safety issue. So we're going to get into that. We're also going to get into oxidation, winterization, things you can do. Big thing for me, I'm real hesitant with working with insurance. I think there's a lot of people who are out there who are afraid to bring their stuff in because they don't exactly know how it works out. But just kind of run down a little bit about the history of Shoreline. I know it's been around, and then 3 main locations right now, correct?
Yeah. So Todd Egger started this business in 1999 in Kansas City, Missouri, Smithfield to be exact. Opened Tulsa in 2007, and then opened Austin, Texas in 2015. So we've got 3 stores. We've been in business for a long time. It's a family-owned business. But you know, it's owned by a family. We have 3 stores. We dabble in basically we're a body shop for boats and RVs. We do quite a bit of more stuff on the RV side, as in service, air conditioners, hot water heaters, things like that. We don't mess with the chassis. We don't mess with the boat engines. So that's kind of.
So what percent of stuff would you say is bass boat related? Tournament guys, you come in and are like, dude, I ran into rebar, I got stuck on a sand, I ran into a dock, that type of stuff.
It depends. It's really interesting to see the 3 different stores. So here in Tulsa, we're really, really bass boat heavy. And it's just, I think it's part of it that me being in the tournament scene and everything like that, I kind of know everyone. But in Austin, Texas, they do more of the power boats, the wakeboard boats, things like that. And then Kansas City just gets a wide array of things. So it's different in each store. But, majority of the work that we do here, we do a lot of the pleasure boats and things like that. But I would say it's probably 60% to 70% bass boats.
Okay, so we're going to get into some of the bass boat stuff that if you're a boat owner or RV or anything owner, the process, things that you need to look for, things you can do to help prevent, preventative maintenance, things like that you see come in all the time that are problems. Before that, there is a derby going on right now on Cayuga, the BPT, the Bass Pro Tour, the initials. It's been a while. It's been a minute since we've seen the initials at the top of the leaderboard. Group A yesterday, a 28-pound sack for Kevin Van Dam, and I believe they were all small jaws, which was pretty impressive. This morning, a lot of guys off to a hot start. Matt Becker, 4'11", 4'12", right before we went live, catching smallmouth. So one of the Finger Lakes, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Cayuga as this tournament progresses. I was talking with another angler, and one of the interesting things in the catch, weigh, release format is I don't believe they can catch the same fish twice during a day. but they can catch the same fish every day of the tournament. Now, there's a lot of offshore stuff, a lot of grass stuff going on, but I will be very interested to see how those spawning smallmouth play moving forward in this event. Are you going to see very similar things with potentially the same fish on a bed getting weighed in multiple days? Something that we don't get a lot of down south. Have you ever done the spawning smallmouth thing?
No, I haven't. No.
The crazy thing is they're dumb. They're very dumb. You can catch them. I remember going up to Canada and you catch, you'd beer a rock and you'd see 6 around it. And in 6 casts, you catch all 6. It's like they wait their turn to come up and plow it. So interesting to see if KVD up north, where he's supposed to do well, can close it out. Also saw Roy Hawk off to a good start. He's got 2 over 6. Would really like to see Roy have a good tournament there. And then the Elite Series after the Sabine, they're off for like 5 or 6 weeks, 3 tournaments up north for them. So that's what's going on in the Derby scene. Also, if you haven't had a chance to check it out, last night, BTL at Night with Mark Jeffries, his first in-studio show since I moved the studio to Shawnee, Oklahoma. A lot of good giveaways there. We gave away a Spro KGB collaboration Chad. We gave away one of the new Denali Novus reels, and we gave away some of the new X Zone Goby style Stealth Invader drop shot bait. So those are on their way to the listeners. But let's get back to Shoreline. This show kind of came to fruition because of one of the first times we fished together after you started working for Shoreline, and you're learning it all. And I'm fishing out of a ZX 190, and I had 2 dings on it. One of them was just straight up boater error. It was windy. We were on Texoma. Some guy pulls up to the side. I get cornered off, crunch it through the gel coat into the fiberglass. How do you know, like, what is a sign that you need to have a ding, a scratch, something in that bass boat looked at, and that it's not merely just a cosmetic repair? Because that's what I had trouble. I was like, oh, that's no big deal. It's not that big. And you looked at it and said, dude, you're compromising the integrity of your hull the more you run with this thing.
Right. So what happens is that fiberglass, it doesn't rot, but what it does when it gets moisture in it, and you really need to be conscious of stuff that's under the water line more than stuff that's above the water line. But anything on the boat, anything that's close to the water line, we call the water line anything from the water level when the boat's in the water to under the boat.
Okay.
Anything that has that's under the water line, you definitely need to keep an eye on. I mean, anytime there's open fiberglass, you run the risk of delamination. You also run the risk of that getting worse. The pressure of the water in these bass boats at 7, I mean, I don't know if any of you guys ever been skiing, but or tubing, and you fall off the tube at 30 mile an hour. Well, imagine the boat going across the water at 70. So that water is constantly giving pressure between the gel coat, between the layers of fiberglass, and it just gets old. And it's kind of like rotted, but it just gets old and slowly starts flaking away where that exposed fiberglass is. And then what can happen is it can delaminate, or it can eventually wear itself all the way through. A lot of these boats anymore are full of foam. And so, eventually that fiberglass will saturate all that water, and then the water gets into your foam, and then the boat gains, you lose speed because the boat gets heavier, and things like that.
Basically waterlogs.
It waterlogs the boat. I mean, every single one of these boats, so the Coast Guard requires a certain amount of foam to be in every boat. And when the manufacturers build the boats, every single day before they install the foam, they have to weigh it, and it has to have a certain density before they can put it in the boats for Coast Guard. You have the tag in your boat that says you can have 8 people and this much tackle and so on and so forth. Well, that's part of that deal, is they have to weigh that foam and check out the density and the weight and all that so that they know it's properly flotation. I mean, really anymore, it's hard to sink a bass boat, like sink one to the bottom. Like, you can fill the thing up with water to the top and it's probably still going to float. You see the old videos where they cut the bottom of the Ranger out. You can cut about any of them out now and they'll still float.
You mentioned the word delaminate. I see Troy in the instant feedback and comment said, can you explain exactly what happens when a boat delaminates? What does that mean? We've heard of that happen occasionally,
right? But
what exactly does that mean?
A lot of times guys are like, oh, I didn't hit nothing and my boat delaminated. Well, it all starts with something. It all starts with a chip. It all starts with a crack and things like that. But what happens is the layers of the fiberglass is sprayed in the boat, and then it's hand laid, pushed out. That's why you hear hand laid holes. But what happens is it's kind of stacked in layers, and that water gets between those layers, and then eventually it just peels it back. I mean, it'll just peel it back like a pop can or like a aluminum can. It just opens it up. I've seen 8, 9, 10, 12 feet of delamination on boats. We just finished up one back there that had about 3 feet of delamination. The guy got on a piece of rebar, ran it the rest of the day. It wasn't leaking. Got it here, and we lifted it up, and I mean, it had a 2 foot by 3 foot section, 4 foot section of delamination.
How big does when you talk about into the fiberglass, you're talking about through the gel coat to where you're seeing
Where you can see the fibers.
the white or yellowish.
Yeah, whitish, pink, yellow. I mean, it kind of most of fresh resin on newer boats is pretty pink. On older boats, it tends to be a little bit whiter, and that's because it just over time with the heat and everything, resin kind of continues to cure for the life of its.
Okay, so how big does it have to be becoming an issue, or if you can see it, it needs to get fixed?
I mean, I recommend everything. I mean, everything from a dime size to a quarter size to a scratch. Anytime you can see that fiberglass is not good, you run the opportunity.
So it's kind of like a windshield when you get a rock where it goes ding on your windshield, and then you come out one day and all of a sudden you've got a spider crack across the whole windshield when you could just plug the windshield right there, take that out, and be good to go.
Right. It's definitely not something that's going to get better or go away. So if you continue to use your boat, I always we see the worst delamination from about the middle of the boat to the back of the boat, just because that's where most of the high pressured water is when you're running. Okay. But yeah, I mean, anything from a dime to a quarter to dollar bill, bigger than that, you definitely something you need to look at.
So do guys run into issues, I guess, where they've gotten up on something, but then their boat is sitting on the trailer to where they can't really see what's in that hidden spot, and then all of a sudden they'll have issues with their boat, and you'll be like, hey, you had basically a hole here that you couldn't tell when it was on the trailer. Is there a way to do a walkthrough and figure out and make sure that the integrity of your hull and everything is in good before it gets to that point?
Well, really, I mean, most people know if they got up on something or they hit something. And if you get up on something, a rock, rebar, stump, there's going to be a mark from it. That's just how gel coat is. There's going to be a mark on it. And what will happen is guys will, look under there, and they don't really crawl under there, get you a creeper, slide under there. But they'll get under there and they'll be like, well, I didn't see anything. Well, those bunks hide a lot. I mean, I had a guy in here, a couple months back. I'm leaking water. I've sealed everything off. I changed all my pumps. I'm still leaking water. Lift the boat up, and he has a hole the size of a $50.
Really?
Straight through. It was under his bunkboard. Couldn't see it. There was no cracks.
Straight through into
the
bottom of the boat.
Yep, straight through into the bottom of the boat, right below the fuel tank, and I mean, it just filled up with water. So anytime Shoreline, we have lifts, and most of your fiberglass shops, there's not Shorelines all over the country, but most of these fiberglass shops will have a way to get the boat off the trailer. If you get up on something, always good if you can't see it to take it to the shop.
So things that are the difference between a scratch, if you hear like crunching, or what are some of the things where it's like, hey, I need to have this looked at and make sure that I didn't jack anything up?
A lot of times if you can hear it, it did something. Rebar is bad, T-posts are bad. Stumps, if you go over them easy, they're not as bad. On some of the thinner boats, the speedboat type of boats, the Bullets, the Allisons, and things like that, you see when they get up on stumps, it's a little different because their holes are thinner. But on all of our standard bass boats, your Phoenixes, your Bass Cats, Camus, you can slide up on a stump. But if you hit the stump, it's a little different than like sliding up on a stump.
So we were headed to the One Bass Nation, and you actually had a little concoction of, what was it, temporary fiberglass?
It was just some gel coat. So like, when anytime I carry a little patch kit in my boat or in my pickup at all times, just in the event that I get up on something, anything, what I recommend to do is if you get up on something and you're in a tournament and you have to use the boat the next day, I recommend take plenty of pictures of the damage. Don't don't just cover it, because then if you want to end up having to file a claim, we don't really, how long's it been there?
Yeah.
So take pictures, your phone will timestamp them, and then always carry some JB Weld Marine or a little gel coat patch paste kit. They sell them online. Academy, Bass Pro, stuff like that typically has them too. But I always carry that in my boat. In the event I get up on something, I can just, let it dry. I can touch it up. It'll sit overnight. Next morning I can go fishing and not have any worry.
But that's key is if you do have an issues, you hit something, you have a hole or something, you need to have good documentation of when it happened and what it was before you do anything.
Right, correct. And if you got a hole, or if you're questioning if it's bad enough to go the next day, I recommend not going. If you question, it's kind of one of those deals where if it's questionable and you're like, should I go, should I not? Typically you shouldn't. If you hit something pretty hard.
You mentioned the insurance deal. I've worked a little bit with Shoreline in the past, and just talking with you, that's a big part of your job, and what you guys do is working with the insurance companies, regardless of whether it's a RV or a boat or anything. But I also think that's a big, at least for me, that's like a big hang up as far as coming in, knowing what you have to do, have a shoreline, and how would you recommend like taking care of that? Is there certain stuff you want to make sure you have covered? Is it like not as big of a deal? Do you guys work with the insurance company? How does that primarily work?
We work, basically what we do is we take all the stress and everything away from the customer. So what the customer needs to do in the event that you have an accident is they need to call their insurance company and they need to file the claim. Once the claim is filed, then they bring the boat in. There's very few insurance companies anymore that send people out to look at the boats. And there's also, they don't make you get multiple estimates like sometimes they do in vehicles. You tell them, hey, I want to take my boat to Shoreline. You bring the boat to Shoreline, you give us the claim number. We, at that point in time, will lift the boat off the trailer if we need to, but we send in the photographs, we send in the estimate, and really at the end of the day, you get a phone call and says it's approved and how do you want the payment. But everybody is always thinking that their insurance company is out to get them, and I believe that insurance companies are very, very understanding of the situation. You just have to be understanding of their situation. Be nice. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. No, sir. That type of thing. And you can get a lot handled and make the process very, very easy.
All right. Couple questions on there about aluminum vessels. Obviously, you could probably run into a little bit more than you can with a fiberglass boat. That's why we see certain guys running aluminums now. But what are some stuff? Do you ever get aluminums in the shop? What if you put a big dent in it? Is there anything that can compromise the integrity of an aluminum boat that you need to kind of pay attention to, or are those things a whole different animal?
Aluminum boats, we fix a handful of aluminum boats. We can fix a gouge in the bottom or everything like that. The one thing about them though is typically we have to repair them from the inside, which requires us taking side panels off, decks off, things like that. But they can be repaired. But I feel like if you buy an aluminum boat, you're probably a little harder on one sometimes. That's what it seems to be to me. The guys that have aluminum boats are, I'm going to go 20 miles up the river, or I'm going to, jump stumps and things like that. They're not as really, the scratches in aluminum boats are tough to fix just because it's paint. It's not gel coat. So with paint, you've got to it's a bigger repair, more costly repair. But the one thing about aluminum boats a lot of times is we have to pull decks, we have to pull panels to be able to access the interiors of the boat. Now,
do you guys do stuff like rotten decks? And if you have like an old boat that you want to come in, or you guys primarily RV and major fiberglass work, that type of stuff?
Yeah,
it's not like a repair shop for everything that goes wrong with your boat. That's a key distinction too, right?
No, we don't. So we don't really do any we're not really a restoration shop. We don't do floors. We don't do transoms. We don't really do a whole lot of that stuff. It's mainly collision repair. These boats anymore, you talk about the rotted boats. The rotted boats are to the point where they're so old it's time for a new one. And the newer boats, if we have to get into something structural, the transom, the stringers, the bulkhead, something like that, these boats anymore are engineered. if you ever have time, go on YouTube. You can look up. Basically, they'll show you how they build them. And the stringer systems now are basically a thin fiberglass skeleton filled with foam, and your foam is what's holding your boat together. Is your structure. And so, anytime that's compromised, the boat at that point in time is in question if it can be repaired or not.
Okay. Another key question that you see this a lot with some older boats that are still in great working condition on the water are the spider cracks. There's certain models, certain things that are known for, hey, you can see spider cracks around the transom. You can see it sometimes around the rod lockers on that. How do you know if that's something that structurally needs to be looked at, or if that's just cosmetics and gel coat that you shouldn't have to worry about?
Right.
Because I think that a majority of, especially 10-plus-year-old boats, you're going to be able to look at it and see some sort of stress cracking,
Right.
fracturing.
Yeah.
How do you know if that needs to be looked at or if that's just wear and tear?
You know, I always question the stress cracks in the splash well. You know, you can always lift your motor up and shake your transom, see if your transom's flexing and things like that. But really, a lot of the time,
go through what you're going to do to that.
So you take your motor, you take your transom saver off, and you just kind of lift up and shake the motor a little bit. And you'll be able to see that back part flexing a little bit if it's an issue.
I mean, if that is an issue, then you're risking that motor.
Yeah, but that's, I mean,
Rare.
the chance of the motor falling off in any of these newer boats is slim. Like your jack plate's probably going to break before your motor falls off the boat.
Okay.
You know, that type of thing. But you know, the stress cracks around the lockers in the little tight corners and things like that. You got to remember, these things are built by hand. And then those corners, what happens is, typically there's voids in those corners where the gel coat doesn't meet the fiberglass, or let's say you see the stress cracks a lot up by the trolling motor. Well, what has happened is that trolling motor's got loose and it's moving. Well, when it moves, it flexes that deck a little bit and it breaks the fiber. I mean, fiberglass gel coat. If there's cracks in the gel coat, there's cracks in the fiberglass. Almost 95% of the time.
Really?
Because it flexes the fiberglass, and that's what cracks the gel coat. The gel coat is adhered to the fiberglass, so it's when it's cracked, the gel coat, the fiberglass flex to crack the gel coat.
Okay, so it's from the inside out, not from the outside.
Yeah, you know, like we'll see a lot of times, like he's like, man, I got some spider cracks. I think it's just in the gel coat. Well, for us to repair that crack, we got to go all the way through the gel, and typically by the time you get all the way through the gel, that you can tell where the fiberglass has been compromised a little bit. It's not bad typically, but it has been compromised.
Okay. Matthew's asked about a specific type of boat. You deal with all brands. It's not like
absolutely.
You don't have to have a specific brand or anything. I mean, whether it's a bass boat, ski boat, whatever.
Right.
Any
Yeah.
brand.
Any brand, any make, model. We typically try to work on stuff that's 2000 and newer. But I
It's
mean,
23 years.
yeah, it's 23 years old. I did work on an '87 Champion the other day that was mint condition.
Yeah, it's a champion.
But it's got to be something where I've got to see it. And it's got to be pretty mint for us to work on something that.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna take a couple more questions, and then we're actually gonna take a break and then do a little walkthrough of the shop. You have a couple of we got some bass boats and some ski boats and stuff. Different process. Some repairing stuff. Some gel coat. Some under, I don't know what else
bottom
going
damage.
on, but we're going to walk through that. But one of the main questions that I have that I think a lot of people, I saw Sean ask that too, was oxidation of the boat. My first boat was like a 78 Ranger, and it was dull. And you see a lot of the boats that get left out. Some people cover it, but I think the biggest question that I have for you, and you see a lot of boats in a lot of different shape. What is the best way to keep that boat looking new? And then is there anything you can do by yourself, or is that something that they can come in if you want that sucker to look new? And when is it past gone? Like, is there a time where it's like, man, you got to re-gel coat the whole thing, you can't just buff it out?
The one thing that I can tell everybody is heat is just as bad for one as the sun. So you guys like, well, I had it under a cover, but that thing just, you ever had a boat sit out under the cover and you put your hand on the cover and it's hot? Well, it's no different than the sun. The sun's doing the same thing. Everybody thinks gel coat doesn't have UV protection like car paint.
Okay.
So the pigment is sprayed into the gel coat, and that's why it oxidizes. And really what happened is the solvents, over time, the heat has brought all the solvents and everything from that gel coat to the very top. And that's what creates the oxidation. So the only way to get rid of that oxidation is to wet sand or sand that oxidation off, and it'll bring back the color. Now, the issue you run into is a lot of times if the flake boats are getting oxidized, is the flake is shot out of the gun mixed with the gel coat in the same gun. Everyone's like, oh, it's my clear coat. Well, it's clear gel coat, but it's shot at the same time. And then there's a light dusting of clear on top of it, but your material is not as thick as like solid color. Because if you get into that flake when you're sanding, it'll turn it silver. So you got a red boat and you go to wet sand the flake to get the shine back. Well, then you turn the boat silver because you've run out of material. And that's why a lot of times the way the sun and the heat works is it eats away the material.
Okay.
So it's less and less material. That's why sometimes when you're you can go like to an old boat, you can rub your hand on it and it feels real rough and kind of like sandpaper. Well, what has happened is the material's deteriorated so far that you can actually feel.
So at that point, you're looking at a whole new gel coat.
Well, the thing about that is you got to gel coat an entire top cap of a boat or an entire hull of a boat. You might as well just buy a new boat. Or anymore, you can wrap the boat. I mean, if we have to do a full top cap flake, I mean, $20,000-$30,000, and that's one thing. So my thing is what I tell people all the time is you can keep the boat inside. Indoor storage is your best friend.
Climate controlled if possible.
But
that keeps it cooler.
Yeah, a little bit cooler, but really, a concrete floor indoor storage is not going to get 110, 115 degrees. That boat's not going to get that hot.
Okay.
But guys, I see it all the time. Guys park it under carports or park it in their garage and put the cover on it, and then it oxidizes, and they're like, "How'd this happen?" The heat and everything. The direct sunlight is not it's a big player, but the heat I feel like is a bigger player than the direct sun.
All right, you're in the market for a new boat. You want to get one that's going to retain its value and look good for the longest. There's a lot of it seems like there's a trend in the matte finishes, the solid paint finishes, as opposed to the gel coat and the sparkle. When it comes to that, do you see it easier to keep a boat looking brand new based on color and how you have it painted, and then certain ones that you have to really be careful about because if you get near anything, it's going to really show?
Yeah, the black, just the black gel coat and the gray gel coat here. A lot of guys are going with that flat gray color.
Yeah.
Those two are very, very unforgiving.
Okay.
When it comes to I'm a guy that fishes trees, or I'm a guy that fishes around some docks, and I dig my stuff a little bit. Silver's your best friend.
Okay.
Silver flake is going to hide 99% of damage, scratches and stuff just due to the light. But
you won't even really be able to see.
No, you can scratch. You can run a scratch down the side of a silver boat, and you have to get real close to realize there's a scratch there.
Okay.
So silver's your best friend. The matte grays. The matte gray looks really, really cool when they're new and when they're clean. But you rub it up on anything, or you put your foot on the gunnel, they get to looking pretty bad pretty quick, and it's just not forgiving. Because anytime you scratch one, it's going to create a white scratch.
Yeah.
So, white boats are pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why you see a ton of white, silver, and red.
Yeah, because the reflection of the light, the solid color gel coats, the black, the gray, the navy blue, stuff like that, that's going to be more, you're going to be able to see the damage.
And then hull-wise, I've had black hulls, I've had white hulls. As far as work on it, it's obviously not going to see, but a black hull is...
We see a lot of black holes around here because, guys fish muddy water.
Okay, that was my question. Why aren't all the holes just white to hide the scratches?
Yeah, because a lot of guys fish muddy water. Well, around here, hell, my boat would have a mud line on it 8 months out of the year. And if you don't want to get under there every single time and clean it, so that's why you see a lot of black holes around here. And you may see white holes in different areas of the country.
How much?
You go to Florida, you see a lot of whiter holes and clean, stuff like that.
Oh, because it's soft bottom. Mm-hmm. Okay, how much hull damage can be prevented with a Hamby or some sort of hull protector on it? You see a lot of boats come in that have chunks taken out of right where it meets, where you're like, dude, all you had to do was spend a couple $100 on a
Yeah, you know, Hamby keel shield.
keel shield.
We recommend Hamby. We've been installing Hamby. We probably install 200 Hambys a year. And we recommend Hamby. Hamby's just right up here in Sperry. We're good friends with the owners and stuff, and they are really worth the investment. You know, we can install a Hamby for $600. It's got a lifetime warranty. We stand behind it. Jake and Hamby will stand behind it. Really, the only thing that can tear up a Hamby is ice. I mean, we went crappie fishing the first time of the year this year.
Did that scratch it up?
Oh, it cut. It looks like somebody took a
that really
cheese
did?
grater and ground in my Hamby.
That was like a 1/4 inch.
Yeah, it wasn't. It doesn't have to be thick ice. Ice will cut it right up.
Oh, I didn't know that actually cut up the hand.
Yeah, if you rub your hand on my Hamby, you can feel it. So ice is the worst thing for Hambys, but really, other than that, they're pretty indestructible.
All right. Anything else we didn't cover in the first part? Because we're gonna do a little tour of the shop then.
Yeah, no, I don't
I mean,
think
the
so.
big thing also too is you guys are. You said you do the majority of the bass boats out of the Tulsa shop, but you also are big in RV repair. Just talk a little bit about that, because there's a lot of guys who also have RVs and travel on the road, you know, in a fifth wheel or in one of those truck toppers. I mean, you do a lot of maintenance and repairs on that stuff too,
Yeah, so
right?
we do basically everything you can do on the RV. We have mobile service. We do shop stuff here in the shop, collision repair, everything like that. One thing I tell everybody is just to always be water and an RV is your worst enemy. So always check your roof, make sure your seals are good, your doors are closing properly. If you see water in your RV, get it in a shop or find the root cause and get it repaired, because you leave water in an RV for very, very long. They're not built like a home with 2x4s and things like that. A lot of times it's particle board, wall board with wallpaper and things like that, and it just doesn't do good with water.
You probably see some nightmares.
Oh man, it's bad. You know, you come in on all the floor, you feel like you're gonna fall through the floor. Well, I knew it was leaking. Yeah. Anytime you have water leak, that's your worst enemy, but we can handle everything else too.
So what I've gotten over the first half hour of the show is, if you have something that you think is an issue, bring it in, have it looked at, and have it repaired. Because when it comes to this game, for boats, for RVs, for anything that you're putting pressure on that can get water in it or anything, it's never going to get better or stay the same. It's always going to get worse once you've compromised the integrity of it.
Yeah, it's never going to go away. It's there, you know, and water leaks, hull damage, all that type of stuff. It's you know, it's like when guys have a leak in their boat, the first thing they check is, oh, did I put my drain plug in? And oh, did I, you know, or my pumps broke? Well, you need to check everything. You know, it's no different in your RV. If you got a water leak in your RV, check everything, because it's not going to get any better, and it's not going to go away.
All right, you want to do a tour? We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, like I said, we are at, on location, Shoreline Boat and RV Tulsa, one of the 3 locations, Tulsa, Kansas City. We are going to do a live show from Kansas City later this year. Is that a brand new?
We added on up there. It's a, you know, half of it's brand new, half of it's the original facility, but you can't really tell the difference.
And Austin, which, I mean, Austin does a lot of big, crazy.
They do all the cool. They do
all
the cool boats.
When I was out there last time, I was like, every single boat was like more than my house.
Yeah, you know, they got all the cool power boats and wakeboard boats and things like that. But it's interesting what the, you know, demographic is.
All right, we are going to take a break, and when we come back, we will be in the shop. Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
You call it the shop?
Call it the shop.
All right, we'll be in the shop. Brock Enmeier, Shoreline Boat and RV BTL on a Wednesday. We'll be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Everything you need legendary brand. Top one on Strike King.
So I'm a big guy, you know, a lunker, a two sandwich eating kind of man.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
The great thing about the new Sensation soft plastics from Big Bite Baits, heavily scented, super soft, buoyant, comes in 7 great new shapes. I've got a couple of them of my signature series, the cliffhanger worm and the ramtail craw. Great for a flipping jig, football jig, swim jig, all that. Several other great shapes. Really excited about it. We've worked over the last year, catches fish all over the country, and I think it's going to catch fish for people everywhere you try it.
The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
All right, welcome back to Shoreline Boat and RV Tulsa with GM of the store, Brock Enmeier. We've made it out to the shop after we kind of went through all of kind of the odds and ends and questions. Do you get a lot of questions? Like, are there any dumb questions? Or if you have questions about your boat or RV, can you just call Shoreline, say, hey, here's what I've got going on, and then you guys can recommend whether they need to come in, whether it's something that's not a big deal? I mean, is that how you would recommend? Is there an email? Phone?
Yeah, no, you can get on our website, ShorelineBoatRV.com, and send us an email, or you can call me at the shop, just ask for me. There's no dumb questions. I mean, I'll help you with anything I can in any aspect. You know, we can help.
I'm good with dumb questions.
Every now and then. No question's a dumb question in my
All right,
opinion.
we're at the shop. This is just a couple examples of what he's got going on right now. So what do we have going on here? Like, just as an example of what we're working on. Obviously, beautiful bass boat.
Yeah, so we got 2022 Camus here. Customer unloaded, boat got away from him, and then it scratched all the way down the side. So we did a repair here. We've already sprayed, new metal flake here, and he's getting ready. I mean, we can watch Dave spray the flake. He's going to spray the flake in these 2 spots here in just a second. So the way we lay the flake down is we lay the flake down first wet. It comes out of a gun with the clear gel coat, and then we'll blow a little bit of dry flake on it, and then we put clear gel coat on the top. So Dave's actually about to hook up the spray gun, but this is just one of those, it wasn't a bad deal. The customer could continue to use the boat, but it was just something that bothered him, so he wanted to get it fixed. It wasn't all the way through the gel coat, but it was all the way down the side, and it was pretty nasty. So
Is flake pretty easy to lay down, or it seems like there's a lot of process?
So the thing about flake is, white gel coat, you got a spot that's the size of a quarter. You get a little bit bigger with that. But if you go with flake, you got a spot the size of a quarter. You got to blend it out and make it a little bit bigger. So, he may have had an 8-inch scratch that turned into a 12 to 16-inch repair.
How far are you away from actually hitting something? Like much?
Like
right now?
Yeah,
All
he's
right, so we need to,
he's
like,
gonna pull the
step-
trigger.
step
Yeah, no,
back
we can
then,
just stand
right?
back and he'll pull the trigger and lay it down.
How far out are you guys right now, Brock? Like, if you have something that you want to get, like, is it just different? You need to just call the shop and let them know.
Yeah,
what you got?
every shop's different, but we're really anywhere between a week to 2 weeks out. And most of the shops, these guys are very, very efficient, and we're turning. Right now, we're really at the end of the day. If there's any kind of parts or we're waiting on the insurance company, that's taking longer. We can typically go within about a week.
So the skill involved here is making sure your flake is right. Making
So
sure
basically,
you have the right color.
we got it. The manufacturer will tell us what the right color is, but also the lay down of the flake. If he lays that, the way he sprays that is how the flake lays down. And what it'll do is, if he does it the wrong way, it'll hot spot. So we don't want any kind of hot spot. So that's why we do it the way we do it, with the wet and then the dry, and then he'll come back over at the top. Like this corner that we sprayed up here at the top, you can't even tell where we stopped and where we started.
Okay. So that's the goal here. That's where the skill's involved, is going with a repair shop that knows what they're doing versus one that you can.
Yeah, if you don't spray flake every day, it's not something you're going to learn overnight and be good at. So, but what he's going to do here is he's spraying wet flake on that, and then we'll let it tack up, and then we'll come back with the clear gel coat. It'll be good to go.
All right, good stuff. You want to see what else we got going on?
Yeah, we got some bottom jobs back here in the back, and
all right, where are we headed this way? Holy cow, so you got one up on a lift?
yeah, we've got a couple up on the lift. So this is how we lift the boats. Lift them up in the air with straps and the D-rings, and then we do the repairs. Any kind of fiberglass bottom damage, we do have a rotisserie. If it's really, really bad damage,
What is a rotisserie?
Well, basically we take the boat, we hook it to the D-rings, and we flip it over if we need to. But
okay.
a lot of our repairs that aren't huge hard hits are all just lifted up in the air.
Okay, so this is how you could get underneath the boat. You can determine what needs to be repaired, where the scratches are. You can work on it safely and get everything taken care of. And
Right, yeah, we can hang them up pretty quick, get our estimates, photographs, set them back down, and then we put stands under them so they're supported, and bag them up really good, and so they're not getting dust in them and everything like that. But
okay, clean shop too.
yeah, we try to keep it that way. It's hard sometimes when you do a lot of fiberglass repair, but we keep it swept and cleaned up.
All right. Anything else in the shop you want to show us?
I don't have a whole lot.
All right. So here's what we'll do. We're going to take our final break of the show. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit team tournament action. Brock and his buddy TJ, they run one of the best jackpot series in the state, just as far as payback. They also, you guys running the Monday Nighters this year?
Yeah, we run the Monday
Also
Nighters.
running a Monday Nighter. You're averaging, what, 50, 60?
45, 50 typically.
Boats a week, a really good payout. They have a good side pot. They're eligible for all of the different bonuses and funds. It's one of the best run ones. So I want to get Brock's take on what it takes to run a good team circuit, local, regional, stuff like that when we come back. Like I said, it is a Wednesday morning live from Shoreline Boat and RV. We'll be back right after this.
Have you considered purchasing new electronics for your rig? The type of mounts you choose to protect your investment should be part of the decision-making process. No matter if you prefer 1, 2, or 3 graphs up front, Beatdown Outdoors has a solution for you. Adjustable, versatile, rigid, and made in the USA. What's your ultimate electronics setup? Check out the full selection of Beatdown Outdoors products by visiting beatdownoutdoors.com.
Having confidence in your tackle while on the water is one of the main things to success, in my opinion. In the last couple of years with Denali, I've had just that. From anything from spinning rods, casting rods, tungsten products, even now to casting and spinning reels, I have the confidence to go out there and get the job done and know that all my equipment is going to handle it and do it just the way I want it. The thing about Denali is you've got great quality products at a great price point, so make sure you check them out. I'm the kind of guy that never leaves the house without a pocket knife, and Gamakatsu's come out with the EDC series of knives. EDC stands for everyday carry, so whether you're on the water or off, you can always have it with you. The best thing about it to me is that assisted open feature. With this D2 blade, you've got it right here at your fingertips. So if you can't find your scissors, you need to cut a knot, you need to cut your braid, you've always got it. Make sure you check it out. Never leave home without your Gamakatsu EDC knife.
Born in Japan, using technology, innovation, and precision, Sunline produces the widest selection of fishing lines at the most technologically advanced line factory in the world. Manufactured at the strictest tolerances to produce victories at the highest levels of tournament bass fishing. From household names like Christie, Swindle, and Cruz, to young guns like Cook, Logan, New, and Welcher, they all trust Sunline to take them to the top of the leaderboard. Choose the line that will give you the strength to guarantee your confidence.
Are you looking to install your own fishing electronics? The solution is the Bass Tank Power Harness. It takes the guesswork out of installation. No more voltage issues or interference. Designed by an engineer so that you can get professional results right there in your own garage. Installation done right with the help of the Bass Tank Power Harness. You can feel confident knowing that your installation was done right. The Bass Tank Power Harness. Give us a call or order yours today at thebasstank.com.
Get the best patterns backed by tournament data. Start by finding the best 10% of your lake. Know exactly what to look for and what to throw. After that, just put them in the boat. Try the Deep Dive app today.
Look at that beast right there.
All right, welcome back. We are live from Shoreline Boat and RV in Tulsa. You can see half of Brock right now. GM of the Shoreline Boat and RV store in here. Scoot over this way just a little bit. There we go. Now you're back in. GM of the Shoreline Boat and RV. We just were out in the shop, and that's pretty much a daily occurrence for you. When is the best time? Like if you have something that you know you want to get fixed, you're not planning on using it or anything. Like, is there an off season? Does it stay busy? When is like your busy season for the bass boat stuff? Or
there's really no off season around here. The weather stays warm enough, and there's guys using their stuff all the time. We try to schedule to where you're not here for a lengthy period of time. If we can get everything approved, have all the parts here and everything like that, it typically takes, depending on the damage, a week to a week and a half to get something in and out of the shop. The technicians are very efficient. We do the repair, we wash and clean up the boat when it's ready to go, and then it's out the gate from there. So.
You were talking about tournament fishing because this is something that I'm passionate about. I've mentioned it on the show before. I'd say the vast majority. I mean, there's not that many guys that fish at the AAA level. That Toyota Series Open, and then obviously you have the qualifying that you have to qualify to be a part of. There's nothing worse than a poorly ran local circuit, and there's nothing better than one that runs like butter. Now, I know you're going to have issues in all of it, but I kind of want to dive into, in your opinion, what makes a good local team circuit and team event. You fish a lot of them, and your tournament director or co-tournament director for one of the better ones in Oklahoma as well. So starting off, first of all, what made you even want to be a part of running a tournament circuit? Because to me, that just sounds like an absolute nightmare.
Well, at the time, I didn't really think a whole lot of it being hard. It's you show up, you run the weights. Well, there's a lot more to it. You're answering questions during the week. You're handling disputes. I'm president of the Bass Nation as well here in Oklahoma. So I've got parents, and I've got for the high school kids, and I've got the adults. So really at the end of the day, I did the math, and we do the Keystone stuff, and I help some out at SkyTooth. I mean, sometimes I run 10, 12 tournaments a month.
What are some of the keys that make, in your opinion, to run a good tournament circuit, like a Monday night or a Wednesday night or a weekend jackpot series?
Have consistency. Be there at the same time to take the money. Make sure that everybody has what they need to have, information-wise. Have your rules posted. For everything that we do, we have a website, and for everything that we do, we have a Facebook page, so that everybody can get all the information. Our phones are always on, and everything like that. But the key is just communication. Ask questions. If you ask a question, we're going to give you an answer. Or if we don't know the answer, we're going to talk through it. TJ and I, or Joe and I, or Ryan and I, we're going to talk through it and get to the, get a solution and get it handled. But, a key to running a good trail is just communication, putting all the information out there. You don't want to leave anybody hanging. And then just, it's just fishing at the end of the day. Go have fun.
You mentioned the Oklahoma Bass Nation. We had Hank Weldon live from Lake Eufaula in Alabama earlier this year, and it was kind of when the information was coming out about the changes with the Bass Nation and the qualifying process and the national championship beginning in 2024. Oklahoma, very active. They've sent a lot of anglers to the Classic in the past. Mm-hmm. What are kind of your initial thoughts on that? How has it been? Have the changes been received by the membership kind of base as a whole, and what do you see kind of going forward for the Bass Nation? Because for a lot of serious anglers, that's their only path to the Bassmaster Classic.
Well, when they made the change to the Opens and they did the EQ was your only qualifying to the Classic, or it was your only qualification to the Elite Series. Mm-hmm. I think that and that the regional deal was only going to get you to the Classic. I think that took away a little bit of a dynamic for some of the guys that, didn't have the time or the funds and things to be able to fish all 9 Opens. They were just fishing a 3-tournament deal, and then they had the chance to make the elites. Well, what this does in the Bass Nation is it allows guys to qualify. They're going to still give away a Classic spot, an elite spot, and then 3 total Classic spots and an elite spot. That's not going to change. And I think too, anymore. We drive $100,000 pickups and $100,000 boats, and there's got to be some skin in. You've got to put some skin in the game to get some skin back out of the game. So I think what it'll do is it'll boost the payouts at those regionals. It'll allow more people the opportunity to live that dream of fishing for a chance to make it to the Classic, make it to the Elite Series and things like that. So the membership is kind of 50-50 on it. I think our numbers have still stayed good. We've still had plenty of participation, and I don't see that really falling off. I think some of the older guys that have just been fishing it just to fish it mm-hmm. because they've been fishing it for 100 years, those guys will slowly fall off. But you'll see this young group of anglers that's coming in that wants to move up in the ranks and things like that. The Bass Nation is the best stepping stone. You can start young, and you can work your way up, and you can make a national championship now directly from the state level. So you're not having to go for a regional. Somebody from every state will go directly to the Bass Nation National Championship.
And that's big. So like the Oklahoma State champion doesn't have to go to the regional and qualify in the top percentage of the regional or the top 3 or however many based on your membership. Yep. Goes straight to the top. Then the next 10 are guaranteed a spot in the regional, and then if you're a member of the Oklahoma Bass Nation, then they fill those regional spots. So the regionals are going to be 250 boats, and a percentage of that goes to the national championship. Instead of having one angler from each state, now the national championship, it's going to be a 200-plus boat field, but there's still going to be a Bass Nation championship, and they're still going to take the top 3 anglers in that tournament to the Bassmaster Classic, and the top angler still earns a spot on the Elite Series. So really, what it has done, it has made it almost an easier path to get to the final step, yes, which is the Bass Nation Championship, even though now instead of 3 out of 55, you're talking 3 out of 250, but you got more people that are in the game, more people that are fishing for those 3 spots. So as a whole, I think it's good. Yeah. And I think those regionals and you can fish all the regionals if you want, as long as you can get into them.
Right, yeah, you can fish.
So I think that gives it a really good path to those anglers who maybe would have fished one division of the Opens. You've pretty much fished everything. You fished the national championship, you fished the regionals, you fished the team, you fished an Open on Grand. You've had a lot of success in team tournaments with a couple of different partners, with Jacob, with TJ. You actually won one of the Nichols Marine team tournament series this year. It came with what kind of boat did you have?
Came with an 18-foot Camus and contingency money and everything like that.
Brock would never say this publicly, but I mean, he is, especially over the last 5 to 7 years, has come incredibly good at the local and state level as far as cashing checks. Like, we're talking like real money here. Like, you're like around 50K this year.
We're over 50K.
Over 50K this year. A lot of guys fishing regional and state stuff like that. What do you think? And it can't just be good, but what are some controllable variables that set you up for success in team tournaments? Because we've got, Texas Team Trail, Alabama Bass Trail, all sorts of different, the nickels. What are some of those things that you think are key to success besides just getting on the water?
I think one is just time on the water too, but like another thing is you got to have a good partner. You got to have a partner that feeds off your energy and you feed off their energy. I know Jacob and TJ will both tell you that it's a swing of emotion sometimes, and there's times when I go hours without saying a word and things like that. But you have to feed off their energy. I think that's the key. A lot of guys fish a lot of team tournaments, and the partners just don't gel. And that's why they're never successful. You got to have a good partner. But I think one thing of being successful around here is time on the water, and it doesn't necessarily have to be time on Grand Lake or time on Keystone. If I'm on Grand Lake Saturday and I got to go to Keystone Sunday, when I leave Grand Lake, I'm gonna have a pretty good idea of what's going on at Keystone based on what's going on at Grand Lake, and you can kind of feed off that. These lakes are all pretty much northeast located in the state of Oklahoma. They have the same weather, the same temperature. And you can just, but build off the energy from your partner, I think is the key.
So how do you decide who makes the decisions on the water then? Because that's always been a big, I've talked, Castledine will talk about that. A lot of the top team guys, it seems some guys practice out of different boats, some guys practice together. One guy's a decision maker and they all make it work. But in your opinion, how does that work on the water when you're making decisions? Are you constantly bouncing it off? Is one guy just along for the ride? Do you switch off on spots?
I've done the practice in two boats deal, and it's never worked out well for me just because, I found fish, the partner found fish. We go to their fish, they're not biting. We should have went to my fish. It's just kind of a mind game. So we've actually all started practicing out. We've practiced out of the same boat.
Okay.
I may go a week or two ahead, or he may go a week or two ahead, but alone. But we practice out of the same boats, and we move. But what I think is that on the decision making, it's kind of like you feed off each other. Hey, what do you think? Well, I think we need to go hit this point. Oh, I was thinking we need to hit the point next, but we'll hit that point and then hit this point. Or I think one thing earlier this year we had 2 or 3 holes where we thought we could go catch good limits, and it was like, all right, which one do we start on? You got to kind of play the game. I'm all right. I'm boat number 130. Can I be the first one there, or am I not going to be the first one there? I think there's just a lot of variables that you got to look at in team tournaments, especially big team tournaments. And like the Keystone Trail, we take off. Everybody gets to take off before TJ and I get to take off. So we have to find a spot where we just kind of slide in where nobody's at type of situation. So I think that's big, is just being able to make feed off each other and both have good ideas, both have decent knowledge of the lake. Say, oh, well, remember last year at this time we caught them over here, or things like that.
That's good stuff. We could do an entire show. We probably will do an entire show at some point as far as team tournament fishing. I've wanted to do one where you kind of rank all of the team tournaments. That gets people fired up because there's a lot of guys who fish it, and then you're also fishing for $30,000. But listen, this is a work day for you.
Yep.
We're actually in your office right here. There's customers coming in the back door. There's boats that are getting worked on. So I'm going to let you get back to work. Thank you for letting us come in. BTL, thank you for the support of BTL for Shoreline Boat and RV. Like I said, our listener base does a really good job of taking care of the companies that support BTL that allows us to bring 4 shows a week, over 150 shows a year on location all across the country. So if you have any questions, if you have a boat, an RV, anything, and are within any reasonable distance to get to either Austin, Kansas City, or the Tulsa shop, or if you have questions you want to call, talk to Brock about something that you have going on, what's the best way to get in contact? Again, run down kind of the social media and ways to get a hold of us.
Yeah, the best way to get a hold of us is just, you find our phone number, give us a call, ask for me, Greg in Austin, or Jameis in Kansas City. We can all help you. If you're in question about your boat, feel free to give me a call. Let me know you listen to BTL, and we'll get you taken care of.
It's good stuff. Anything else, Brock?
I'm good.
All right, where are you fishing this weekend?
Grand Saturday, Keystone Sunday.
Grand Saturday, Keystone Sunday. The Bassmaster Open practice starts on Saturday on Lake Eufaula in Oklahoma. I'm looking forward to that one. But first, we have a live back in studio day 4 with the man Frank Scalish tomorrow. Brock, thank you very much for jumping on.
Thank you, Rob.
We'll talk to everybody tomorrow on Thursday. See ya.